Okay, welcome everyone. My name's Eloisa Ramos, and I am here with my friend Connie. Hi,
Hello.
Connie. And we are continuing with the study of the text of A Course in Miracles. So we are on chapter 17, Forgiveness and the Holy Relationship, and we are starting section 2, The Forgiven World. Okay, so paragraph 1. Can you imagine how beautiful those you forgive will look to you? In no fantasy have you ever seen anything so lovely. Nothing you see here, sleeping or waking, comes near to such loveliness, and nothing will you value like unto this, nor hold so dear. Nothing that you remember that made your heart sing with joy has ever brought you even a little part of the happiness this sight will bring you. For you will see the Son of God. You will behold the beauty the Holy Spirit loves to look upon, and which he thanks the Father for. He was created to see this for you until you learn to see it for yourself. And all his teachings leads to seeing it and giving thanks with him. Okay. Okay. So it's interesting that it says, can you imagine? And then it says, in no fantasy have you ever seen anything so lovely. So then can we really imagine it? I don't think so. Um, because imagination is basically fantasy. But but it describes it very well, that, that it's nothing like we see here, sleeping or waking. Um, so, all those things that we hold beautiful, a lot of times we look at a sunset, or we look at the ocean or, you know, a flower or something in nature, and we say, oh, this is so beautiful. But this is saying that it's going to be, um, yeah, much more lovely than that. It, nothing you see here comes near to such loveliness. And so that's a Holy Spirit vision. Holy Spirit sees innocence. And that's what the Holy Spirit loves to look upon, which is the truth of how we were created, and which he thanks the Father for. Um, because I think that's the state of grace. To be in a state of grace is to accept the truth of our innocence as one Son of God. So we recognize it in ourselves and in others, because it's just oneself. There's no separation. Okay. Okay, two.
This loveliness is not a fantasy. It is the real world, bright and clean and new, with everything sparkling under the open sun. Nothing is hidden here, for everything has been forgiven, and there are no fantasies to hide the truth. The bridge between that world and this is so little and so easy to cross that you could not believe it is the meeting place of worlds so different. Yet, this little bridge is the strongest thing that touches on this world at all. This little step, so small it has escaped your notice, is a stride through time into eternity, beyond all ugliness into beauty that will enchant you and will never cease to cause you wonderment at its perfection.
Hmm. Mhm. And it says it's a little step.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's forgiveness. So,
Oh.
so Forgiveness is a little step. Uh, and it's so small it has escaped our notice. Um, but it is what takes us through time into eternity.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Three. This step, the smallest ever taken, is still the greatest accomplishment of all in God's plan of atonement. All else is learned, but this is given, complete and wholly perfect. No one but Him who planned salvation could complete it thus. The real world in its loveliness you learn to reach. Fantasies are all undone, and no one and nothing remains still bound by them, and by your own forgiveness you are free to see. Yet what you see is only what you made with the blessing of your forgiveness on it. And with this final blessing of God's Son upon himself, the real perception, born of the new perspective he has learned, has served its purpose. Okay. Okay, so the real world in its loveliness, you learn to reach. Okay. And this is how fantasies are undone. So it's the healing of the mind and it's through forgiveness. Yes, and by your own forgiveness, you are free to see. Ah, yeah, what you see is only what you made. Okay, because remember that what we are forgiving is illusions. Um, so so what we see would be true perception. So what we're letting go of when we forgive is false perception. But we're still talking about perception. Um, so so what you see when we forgive, okay, is only what you made with the blessing of your forgiveness on it, which would be a reflection of the truth, a reflection of love. And with this final blessing of God's Son upon himself, the real perception born of the new perspective he has learned has served its purpose. Okay, so at this point then the mind is healed. So on earth we heal and in heaven we create. So the next step is taken by God. So so that's why, let's see. So this, let's see. So all else is learned, but this is given complete and wholly perfect. So I think that that's the maybe that's revelation. Maybe that's a direct communication with God. Do you think that's what it's talking about, Connie? Yeah, yeah, because it's completely given, complete and wholly perfect. So, okay, number four.
The stars will disappear in light, and the sun that opened up the world to beauty will vanish. Perception will be meaningless when it has been perfected, for everything that has been used for learning will have no function. Nothing will ever change. No shifts nor shadings, no differences, no variations that made perception possible will still occur. The perception of the real world will be so short that you will barely have time to thank God for it. For God will take the last step swiftly when you have reached the real world and have been made ready for Him.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah. So it is revelation.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the real world is reached through forgiveness. And so when the mind has healed, uh, because it has forgiven the world. In other words, we're still not thinking about specifics, oh, I need to forgive you, or I need to forgive, my daughter, or I need to forgive this in the world. Where Now we've generalized, the mind has completely generalized forgiveness.
Mhm.
And so the whole world is forgiven because it's all the same. There's no differences. It's all made up. It's all our own projections. So the mind, uh, recognizes that it's, uh, it is the causal level of everything that it perceives. And in recognizing that only the true is true and the false, and that doesn't change, only the false can change, um, then it is very clear that it doesn't, there's no point, let's see, there's no point in judging anything. So, and it's only because we judge things that we have to forgive things, right?
Mhm.
Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So, so, yeah.
That last bit, um, let's see, for God will take the last step swiftly when you have reached the real world and have been made ready for
Hmm.
him.
Yeah.
So what is that? Have been made ready for
Uh,
him.
for him, it means that the mind is healed. So it means that the mind is no longer split.
Yeah. Hmm. And so what if we never get there?
No, we do. We do get there if we practice forgiveness. That's where it's gonna,
Oh God.
that's where it's gonna take us, and we don't have to worry about not getting there because it's not our plan. It's God's plan. That's why it cannot fail.
Hmm.
You see, because it's not our plan. We didn't make it up. It's God's plan. And so God's plan for salvation, Holy Spirit, cannot fail. In fact, the Course says we're already at the end of time looking back. So
Hmm.
it's already happened.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's true. Hmm.
Yeah. We are just remembering that
Hmm.
it's already happened. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
yes.
Okay.
So I think what it's just saying here is that the perception of the real world is not going to last, in time. It's going to be very short.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah,
then, yeah. And then there's direct communication with God.
it sounds like in a moment, well, a holy instant, boom, you're swept up.
Yeah. Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, number 5. The real world is
Hmm.
attained simply by the complete forgiveness of the old, the world you see without forgiveness.
Mhm.
The great transformer, capital T, of perception will undertake with you the careful searching of the mind that made this world and uncover to you the seeming reasons for your making it. In the light of the real reason that he brings, as you follow him, he will show you that there is no reason here at all. Each spot his reason touches grows alive with beauty, and what seemed ugly in the darkness of your lack of reason is suddenly released to loveliness. Not even what the Son of God made in insanity could be without a hidden spark of beauty that gentleness could release. Okay. So I think this is describing the process of bringing the light, a healing, which is bringing the light into the darkness, which is, being willing to look at the error. Because what we do is when we judge, we, there's a part that we reject, okay, and the part that we accept, okay, and the part that we reject reminds me of that movie. What is that? Uh, the cartoons with the emotions. Did you see that one?
No, the animated.
In and
You.
Out too. In and Out too.
Oh no, I
Something like
didn't.
that. No.
Hmm.
So it describes the the way that the mind sorts out the memories. Some beliefs, some memories have things like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you, or, oh man, I really messed that up, or, there are all these judgments, there are these negative judgments. And some of them are really positive, like, oh, you're wonderful, great job, whatever. So they separate the memories and the ones that are negative. The character that plays Joy throws them
Hmm.
into oblivion, basically. So
Hmm.
they can't be found. And
Hmm.
then there's another emotion that comes in, which is anxiety. And anxiety tries to basically tries to use excuses about being being able to fit in, as a teenager, to compete and attack and just sort of bring out kind of the worst in her character. And but then in the end, she says something really, I think, important. She says, wait a minute, you know, we don't decide who she is. Okay. So the emotion itself was trying to take control and become the self in charge. And and
Hmm.
and so anyway, that part was pretty interesting. So the idea here is that we bring the light into the error, okay, in our mind because we have hidden it from truth, because we've judged it. We've judged against it. So anything that we judge against, we repress, but then we think we project. Do you see? We think we get rid of it and see it in somebody else, but we're actually seeing it in ourselves because now because there's there's no real projection, okay? It's just that the mind, it's a trick to think that to believe that I am innocent and you are guilty. That's just how we do it, okay? But we
Hmm.
don't get rid of the guilt. It stays in the mind. Nothing leaves the mind because the mind is all there is. Um, so
So
here,
without judgment, that cannot happen.
exactly. So without judgment, the mind is whole. There's no
Hmm.
split. There's no conscious and unconscious
Hmm.
because there's nothing to hide. Like, where did it say that? And uncover, let's see, that was in the previous paragraph.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it helps us uncover to you the seeming reasons for you making it. So what we're doing with the Holy Spirit is really just looking at our beliefs, our all of our beliefs, not just the positive ones, but the negative ones too, about ourselves, and then seeing that they're all equally false. That the truth about us is not what we believe we are, but it's the truth of how God created us. Okay? And the true perception is going to show that we're completely loving. That only those beliefs are in alignment with the truth. Okay? Because we're
Hmm.
completely innocent. We have not changed. We cannot change what God created. So this is the release right here. Um, See, not even what the Son of God made in insanity could be hidden, could be without a hidden spark of beauty that gentleness could
Okay.
release.
All right.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's somewhere there, somewhere in there.
It is. Okay, number 6.
Let's see. Well, that would be me. Okay. All this beauty will rise to bless your sight as you look upon the world with forgiving eyes. For forgiveness literally transforms vision and lets you see the real world reaching quietly and gently across chaos, removing all illusions that had twisted your perception and fixed it on the past. The smallest leaf becomes a thing of wonder, and a blade of grass, a sign of God's perfection.
Hmm. So now the world is really just symbols, but they all represent holiness. They all
Mhm.
represent God's perfection.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, because, otherwise all we're doing is seeing the past, like the lesson, at the beginning, right? Um, I see only the past because that's the meaning that we have taught ourselves. So a blade of grass is whatever meaning I taught myself in the past. And that's the block to the real vision that the Holy Spirit brings, that everything is really an instrument of communication for the truth. So in a blade of grass is God's perfection. It's a sign of God's perfection. So yeah, number 7. From the forgiven world, the Son of God is lifted easily into his home, and there he knows that he has always rested there in peace. Even salvation will become a dream and vanish from his mind. For salvation is the end of dreams, and with the closing of the dream, will have no meaning. Who awake in heaven could dream that there could ever be a need of salvation? Yeah. Yeah, so there's another place where it says that, God creates mind awake, not mind asleep. So the dream, so even salvation will become a dream because salvation implies that there is something to be saved from. Okay.
Mhm.
And when the mind recognizes that the dream is a dream, well, we don't need to be saved from what is not real because it's not a threat. There's nothing, there's no problem there, right?
Yeah.
So so the dream will have no meaning. So all the meaning we will have forgiven all the all the meaning that we learned to give the dream. And so the
Mm.
dream will no longer mean anything.
Mm. Mhm. Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Number 8.
How much do you want salvation? It will give you the real world, trembling with readiness to be given you. The eagerness of the Holy Spirit to give you this is so intense, he would not wait, although he waits in patience. Meet, meet his patience with your impatience at delay in meeting him. Go out in gladness to meet with your Redeemer and walk with him in trust out of this world and into the real world of beauty and forgiveness.
Hmm.
Trembling with readiness to be given you. Hmm.
Yes. So, and in line 5, the key word is trust, right? And walk with him in trust out of
Yeah.
this world uh because because otherwise there's going to be fear. If we're not in complete
Yeah.
trust, then we are giving um what's the word? Belief and credibility to what is false. Um
Mhm.
yeah, because then the mind is taking the dream seriously and not recognizing that what is false is false. So the mind is still confused and it still needs healing. So the trust is really what keeps us um, in our right mind, listening to the Holy Spirit rather than the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps us out of the fear.
Yeah, it
Mm.
does. Yeah. Yeah, because it keeps us actually it keeps us in the present moment. Now when I
Mm.
uh
Hmm.
yeah, because then the mind is not distracted by all the imaginings, all the
Huh.
the attention is not like captured. It's not
Yeah.
here and here.
Yeah.
I it reminds me, I was talking to my son, he goes, he's telling me he watched a movie with his cousins and he's like, oh, it's a movie like from the 80s. He says, it was so terrible, and he's telling me about how terrible it was. And I go, well, why did you sit there and watch it? And he goes, I was in shock. I was, my attention, my eyes were just glued.
Huh.
And I'm like, okay. So, so there's something about, you know, fear, right? Something so terrible. It's just that is captivating to the attention.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of like when people drive by a terrible accident and it's captivating, or yeah, and all these crazy movies. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. We
Yeah.
like it.
Well, we've
We
trained
think.
we've trained our preferences. We've trained our attention, right?
Yeah.
To like that.
Oof.
So we actually give value to fear. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so we do. Fear is attractive.
Huh.
And the course says that guilt and sin are attractive too. So there's attraction to that. Yeah. Hmm. And it
Mm.
and it's all just conditioning.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
We've just
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it, of course, comes through entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
In social situations, we just like, oh, we learn when we're kids, oh, this is what fun is. Okay. It might be scary, but we don't question it because we want to be included in whatever game
Mm.
they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Conditioned. Yeah.
Conditioned. Yeah.
Mm.
It's the
Mm-hmm.
same. And that's basically the past. That's all that we taught ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
Those patterns are really, really tricky to let go of at times. Yeah. I heard a term yesterday that I quite liked. It was higher navigation. Um, yeah, searching for that, navigating through through whatever seems to be a problem to, yeah, navigate on a higher level.
Well, yeah, but that's a little bit of a contradiction, isn't it? Because navigate
Well, yeah, I guess you're making that real in one sense. Yeah.
I think that's kind of trying to bring the truth into the illusion because you're trying to say, I need the Holy Spirit to help me, guide me through a world that is not real, navigate through problems that are not real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so
Okay.
I'm going to make the problems real because I'm asking Holy Spirit to help me to navigate.
Oh, they seem so real. They seem so real.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for straightening that one out.
Yeah, the level of confusion I find if you can really pick that up, uh,
Mm,
that will help. That will really help
mm,
um, to recognize when those ideas are contradictory. And
mm.
yeah,
Man, yeah, it is interesting. And then when you're with a group and expressing that idea, how quickly that becomes, yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah. And yeah.
Well,
It's
that's part of the captivation piece
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
contradiction because there's excitement associated with it because the mind has to kind of try to wrap its head around it.
Mm-hmm,
You see, so
mm-hmm,
so the mind is like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting idea. Let me,
mm-hmm,
give it thought." So then you go into,
mm-hmm.
you know, so yeah.
And the ego likes all that. Mm-hmm,
Well, it does because
mm-hmm.
then we're not in the present moment anymore. Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. hmm
And hmm.
But
Yeah, yeah,
eh,
but if you're in the middle of that, like that was on a radio program, you think when you call in and go, well, wait a minute, that's a contradiction. You go, oh, you are a wackadoodle lady. Yeah.
well, the that's one of the ways to distinguish the ego thought system from the thoughts of God.
Mm.
Is to recognize that the ego thought system can only generate contradictory thoughts.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
why that's why they don't really communicate anything. Um,
Uh-huh.
and in
Yeah.
some way, that's why they have a shock appeal, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. Like for example, the God of the Old Testament, for me, that was always a contradiction. But because it was always a contradiction, it always had this pull of
Mm.
fear associated with it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the fear of God is, uh, for me anyway, had a lot to do with the teachings that I picked up on a God that is loving but also judging and condemning. You see, and you can't reconcile those. But boy, we sure did a good job of trying to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay.
Well,
Okay.
forgive the world. Don't judge it. Ugh.
Just forgive it. Just forgive it. Because, but also remember that it is a projection of thoughts that we have accepted into our mind that are not true. And it's not that, I mean, if you really just sit in the present moment and just trust, you can get to that place of peace where you can say, okay, I can decide to believe it or not believe it. And I'm going to choose to not believe it because it's basically we've trained ourselves to believe what our body's eyes see and not question it. And now we have to sort of look at that and not and see that it's an error to
Oh,
retrain the mind.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's easy to do for me right here, right now, in this space, but I think of people in war to just be sitting there and
Okay,
yeah.
but the only moment is now. So once you think about people, that's all just imagination.
Mm-hmm. Mm, mm. Okay. Yeah.
hmm
Can imagine all kinds of things.
Yes, and we don't know because we're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's better not to even go there.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. See, we have to really be notice when our imagination just runs away with us
Uh-huh.
and just say, okay, I don't need to go there.
Mm. Boy, that happens a lot. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Yeah. Mm.
hmm
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you're welcome. Okay, Connie, until next time, I think let's see, the next section. the forgiven
Mhm.
world. Let's see, we
Shadows.
did, oh yeah, shadows of the past, which makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you
That's a
next time.
long section, next one. Okay. All
Uh,
righty. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.